If you like our content about training, then you'll love our programming too. Head to the notes below to grab a free week of general physical preparation. You get unlimited access to me and fresh programming every single week for less than $1 a day.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Hyperformance podcast. We're here with a long-awaited guest. I'm also here with my cherished co-host, Jacob, the Mosquito, but also we've got Austin Jochum on the show today. And also, before we get into this, I promise to give Jacob a chance to ask a question today, but not right now. First question for Austin. How are you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm ready to vibe with you guys. I love the podcast, man. The setup of it, and you guys are teaching me new ways to make the audio or to make the visuals good. So we're ready to roll.
Well, I'm keen to learn a little bit about your content creation process as well, because I've learned a lot from watching you. I'm sure I'll learn a little bit more from having a conversation with you about it. And I'm also, I reckon, at least 50%, probably even more of our podcast listenership is already acutely aware of who Austin Jochum is. But for the unawares, can you introduce yourself? Who the fuck's Austin Jochum? What are you about? How'd you get into this coaching thing?
Yeah, dude, I'm just a meme maker. That's all I do, pretty much, is just make memes. No,
you didn't start out. You didn't come out of the womb making memes.
Did not come out of the womb making memes. I was very anti-meme, dude. Yeah, you want like the whole background story?
Oh, we love it. We love it. Yeah. As many details, as many detours.
Every small detail in there, I love it. This story has never been told before, too, so we're gonna break it on the podcast. Yeah, just started off in the high school world, sucked at sports, started lifting, same background as a lot of strength coaches. Had a really good strength coach that taught me a lot about like basic levels of strength and like just the power that has. We were missing a lot of like the variety and the movement skill set, but I added like 50 pounds of muscle. You add 50 pounds of muscle to a high school athlete, you're going to be a beast compared to what you were, and got pretty addicted to it from there. Went to college for football. Got absolutely fucking wrecked my like freshman year. As soon as I stepped on campus, I was the strongest person on campus. I was cleaning like 350. I'm a pounds guy. I'm an American guy over here. I stay away from those kilos that you guys use.
160 kilos ish.
Yeah. So I was doing 350 on a platform. The guy, senior linebacker to the left of me, was like upright rowing the most disgusting 180 that you could like ever imagine. It was so gross. He's just this dad bod dude. And I was like, I'm the fucking man on this campus. Like, I'm fucking set. And that very day, we go to practice, and I meet that same exact linebacker in the A gap. And I'm telling you, I've never been hit that hard in my entire fucking life. I looked so stupid. And he patted me on the head. He did like the buddy, you got it next time. And that was really the start, I would say. Like, I always look back at like what was the start of looking at performance, like what's actual sports performance, because I was so set that I had all of the answers because I could move my fucking strength numbers up, and I was so set on that answer until it literally punched me in the face that I didn't have the answer, and that sent me through a ton of rabbit holes, a lot of good rabbit holes, a lot of really shitty rabbit holes, but all of them ended up being really nice for like just getting data points of what do I want my program to look like? What do I want? What is sports performance to me? And how do you get results with that? And and now we're where we're at now, where we own our own private sector. I coached at the college sector, Division III and Division I levels in America for American football, and kind of hated that side of things.
You were doing a degree while you were playing college sports. So
Exercise science degree at St. Thomas. Was doing all that when I was doing football, and then graduated St. Thomas, got a Division III coaching job there. That was my first time working with like really bad athletes. Like we had athletes that didn't start on their high school football teams start on our college team. And dude, it was like some of the things I took for granted just looking at all the athletes that I've ever worked with. I just worked with these guys. I was like, oh my fucking God, it was brutal. And I learned so much working with those athletes. And then went back to St. Thomas. And when we went to the Division I level, that was also a massive like eye opener because we brought in these Division I freshmen. And dude, like it was like what took me 4 weeks to teach a Division III athlete, they literally picked up in 4 minutes. It was like I would tell them something, they would look at me like they would say like this, coach. I'm like, exactly like that. There's nothing I do. And it was just that was also a massive eye opener because I realized like a lot of the coaches I was looking up to was working with these athletes. And it's like it was the easiest job I ever had in my life. Like it was like, just don't be a dumbass with these guys and they're going to be absolute phenomenal. Like, but it was also beautiful to watch these athletes and see the things like how they see the game, how they talk about the game, how they talk about movement. It's a totally different world. It's almost like It's like a person that's used psychedelics versus hasn't. Like when you have a conversation with like people, you're like, oh, that person's very guarded and like has one view set of the world. And this person is just like that. You can tell they have different things there. And you talk to an elite level athlete like that, and you're like, oh, that's why strength coaches say one thing and elite level athletes do a different thing, because they're literally living in a different world. And that was also a big eye opener. So went that Division I route, realized I hated the college sector and dealing with all the bullshit there, and then went full-time Jochum Strength. And that's where we've been at for the last 2.5, 3 years now.
So you just straight up opened your gym right after that stint, or?
I had my gym going at the same time. So when I was at St. Thomas, Jake Turrell was actually, I always knew I kind of want to do something. My dad's always owned a business. I'm not very good at working for a boss. And I had talked to some business people just talking about like, you should always have an insurance policy. And then Jake Turrell really put into my head that like the college sector might not be it. And he was pointing out, like he was red pilling me left and right. He was pointing out bullshit that I didn't even realize.
Dude,
I should realize it. I'm like,
how many have they red pilled? So many.
Oh, so many. And it was so bad for me because I like my gym at that time was not sustainable to like leave my college job. Like it was nice to have both of them to keep me alive, but I was seeing it and I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, there's absolutely no way I can stay in the college sector. And I saw where Jochum Strength was going at that time. And it was like, and that was one of the big things too. It's like just looking at the pay scale. It's like, as I got better at my job, I got paid more for Jochum Strength because I was attracting more clients, whatever it was, you know? And as I got better at my job at St. Thomas, it was just, I got paid exactly the same and had to deal with more bullshit. And I was like, that's just, it's a weird kind of like setup in the college sector that I wasn't a huge fan of. And so we opened up the gym my very first year when I went to that Division III college, and I was doing like online stuff and like opened up like that 400 square foot yoga studio. And then once it reached a point where I could leave the college sector, we left the college sector.
So how were you getting players into the gym initially? Was it just people that you were talking to, word of mouth? Were you approaching people from there, or was it like just people that you knew into the Jochum Strength gym?
Yeah, some, like it was nice to be at the colleges because when we were at a Division III college, they can't coach them in the summer. They have a lot of like breaks. So like we got just naturally a lot of those athletes coming over. And then from there was just word of mouth. And I actually started the online business doing what I was doing. I was very against, like, just talking about how fucking stupid I was, like, throughout my whole, like, coaching journey. Like, there's so many times in my coaching journey where I was so set on having the answer. And one thing that I was so, like, and I was just taught this my entire time in college, like, the social media is so unprofessional. You will never get a job if you do social media. Like, if you do the online coaching thing, you're a piece of shit. Like, you're just a scam artist, like, all of this stuff. And I swore it off. And my first, so I didn't go to my first job until like after the summer of college. So I had 3 months. And during those 3 months, I just trained some of the athletes that, like, some of the freshmen that were there when I was seniors. And I trained them, went to my college job, and they reached out to me to like, dude, like, we need some of these workouts. And I had nothing to offer them. And I was like, I'm not going to do the online thing. They're like, no, dude, like, we will pay you to do this. I'm like, fuck it, fine. So I just did like some super shitty, like, Excel sheets, put some like links in there, started doing that. I did that with them for like 3 weeks. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is absolutely the answer. I'm a total dumbass, and just had like a 180 on what the future of Jochum Strength was and what the future of kind of social media was. But it's just kind of funny, just like thinking about some of the advice I got. And I don't think it was ill intent advice, but I just hear that there's so much stupid advice. I'm sure I give out stupid advice too, for sure, 100%. But just some of the stuff I was told in college and in like the professional world. And I'm like, if I listened to that advice, I would be making 20K right now working for a dickhead athletic director that like made me hate my life the whole time. And I was just like, thank God I did it.
All the guys who work in pro sport, what do you think they're doing on their lunch break? What do you think they're doing when they're sitting there waiting to go to sleep at night? They're doom scrolling Instagram like fucking everyone else. This idea that like their head of performance at whatever NBA, MLB, or NFL team doesn't have the Instagram app. I mean, Buddy Morris, if someone told me he doesn't have the Instagram app on his phone, I'd believe him. Pretty sure everyone else is there being like, oh, fuck, yeah, what is the deal with tomfoolery versus metrics? Reading fucking Austin's posts. Can you talk about what was the early experience like online? Because you're a pretty charismatic and outgoing person. I would sort of have you picked at someone who has high potential for gaining a social media following. But was it easy? Do you feel like you came across charismatically? And
that is one of the things I talk a lot about is social media. Like, I really do believe it levels up your life faster than anything else if you use it in the right way. Because it, like, dude, I was a fucking brain dead meathead football guy. Like maybe like I was a sarcastic asshole in football, but I was just an asshole like football guy. Like, there was no personality there. Like, I really do believe social media and working with like a bunch of asshole TikTok athletes who were like being able to like keep up with their shit talking and keep up with their meme games that they're roasting me for. Like, those are the two things that like brought out that personality and like being comfortable with these things. But I'm a pretty big believer in all of the like charisma, comedy, just ability to make content. Like, all of these things are just things you develop in the same way that you develop a squat, right? Like,
dude, Mike Boyle gets on Instagram and talks shit about other coaches. It's like, if he's doing it, like, he's pretty conservative, and he'll get on there and be like, yeah, fuck these cunts on IG every now and then.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I don't think anybody on Instagram's actually that like not. I don't know. The more I talk to people, the everybody has like a funny joke. Like, this is the best like example of it is like TikTok comments, dude. Like, going into like TikTok comments, you see every single person as a fucking funny ass comedian if they just like get a platform to like make it. Like, I see some of these comments, dude, I'm just dying at. I'm like, that person's a fucking savage. And you go to their page and they have no followers, no posts, nothing. But I'm like, dude, if you just made comments, like if you just made posts off like what that comment like was, you would go absolutely viral. I feel like so many people have the power to go crazy viral if they just put the reps in to go do it. And obviously it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I wouldn't suggest most people go do it just because there is some like mind-numbing stuff that is a social media game. But I do believe if you want to, I think you can develop a charisma and an online personality that you're able to make some money and a lifestyle off of it.
Also, just to chime in here, because I think that this is pretty relevant. People act like content creation, that space is oversaturated, whether in fitness or not. But everyone's complaining about the Instagram app showing them so much content from people that they don't follow. The reason for that isn't necessarily the algorithm. It's because people are so chronically online these days. Instagram is literally like, I've run out of shit from the people you follow to show you today, because you follow 500 fucking people, 5 of them post daily, but you want to spend 10 hours on this fucking app. So I'm going to have to find some other random shit to show you. So all these people are, it's oversaturated. I'm like, it's oversaturated with people who post once or twice a week and then just go quiet for a couple of months. It is absolutely not competitive if you're showing up daily and treating content creation seriously.
Dude, it's just straight up the 90-10 like principle, you know? I mean, it's just straight up like 90% of content comes from the 10% of people that are doing it. And like you said,
nah, it's come from 1%. It's less.
It is. And like even a smaller percent, that's what I was just gonna say. Like, it's even a smaller percentage of that. And it's like, and then of that 1% that is posting, 99% of the 1% post like basic ass dumb shit about creatine that everybody has already posted. So like, if you have any sort of personality at all, you're gonna thrive. Like, if you have anything creative, anything original at all to say, and then you have the balls.
Are we loading that shit or not? I don't even understand. I'm more confused than ever on creatine.
Dude, I don't know if there's any real benefit to it, or like, you know, like my favorite one right now, my favorite online personality is Wendy. Have you gotten the Wendy yet? Should have her on the podcast.
No, I'm still caught up on speed golf, Rob.
Who is that?
Oh my God. Just the ultimate constraints-led coach. Yeah. But absolutely. Who's Wendy?
Wendy's the nutritionist that's like, she consistently posts seriously. She's like, if you're a 12-year-old and you're not waking up at 6 a.m. to have your fucking breakfast, you're a loser. And and she's dead at, it's not a troll. It's not a meme. It's like a real post. And it's like, oh, she's dead ass serious. She's totally serious. And I've like mentioned it because I thought she was joking at first. And she's like, I can't believe you disagree with this, with where society's going. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, Wendy, bro. You got to chill. They're 12. Have you ever worked with a 12-year-old? Like, being at a 12-year-old off their phone for fucking 10 minutes, you won. Like, to wake up at 6 a.m. to go fucking no discipline. They don't want it. That's the biggest issue. Biggest issue in athletics right now, they don't want it. The 12-year-olds don't want it.
I feel like the debate that you're constantly caught up in and the aspect of your model that I feel like I've learned the most from is your balance of having fun, mixing up, creating a stimulative and interesting environment for your athletes, having a little bit of novelty. But I feel like you're consistently getting strawmanned for not giving a fuck about actually making objective progress. Can you talk about your perspective on that? What is the balance between sets and reps, making sure that the key numbers are going up versus what is the role of tomfoolery in physical prep?
That dude, the straw man that you get there is
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I just wanted to take a second to let you know that Angus has poured all of his knowledge on e-commerce and organic content into an ebook, which is now available. If you want to check it out, head to the show notes or the link in Angus's bio. Thanks.
It drives me insane. It's like, I have the numbers in the background. They're all getting bigger, faster, stronger. They're all getting more mobile, and they're talking about how they feel better and they play more. Like, and it's the easiest thing in the fucking world to do these things. Like that argument, like they're just wasting time. They're doing it. It's like, I post, and that's the other thing. I just don't post straight up deadlifts and squats all the time. And when I do, nobody engages with it, which rightfully so. I'm not fucking engaging with a deadlift or squat anyways. But it's like, I'll post these insane numbers. Like a kid the other day he's a hopeful NFL lineman, but he's Larson pressing 325 for 3 reps, like with his feet elevated in his bench press. I was like, that is fucking absolutely insane, first off. And I was like posting it. I was like, and then the people that are shitting on like how we train about not being serious enough, I'm like, you go show me somebody in your gym or you, hopefully you, doing the 325 Larson press, and then we can have a conversation about the stimulus like not working. I think we way overemphasize the very super simple things, which is like, if you get kids to show up, like this is my core principle. To make progress, you have to do something for a long, long time, right? You have to, and you have to be obsessed about it. And to do something for a long, long time, you have to like it. You can't fucking hate it. And so many coaches, they just have this massive survivorship bias of idiots like me. And I know this because I was this athlete. I was this athlete that coaches used all the time. They're like, see, if you just follow my program, you can be like Austin. And it was like, I was going to follow any fucking program because I was so addicted to the weight room and the progress and the gamification. And it was like one outlet in my life I felt like I had like total control over. If I just fucking eat a lot of food and lift weights, I'm going to make progress. It had nothing to do with like the individual program and the thing. And I was always used as that person. And I always felt, and that was the worst because I was like, yeah, I'm the fucking man. Like my coach likes me. And then we would go play on Saturday and I wouldn't fucking play because I was a terrible athlete. Right. Like it was such a stupid argument that I couldn't get out of for the longest time. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. You got to get kids to show up for a long period of time to make progress, to get them to show up for a long period of time. It can't suck. You can't. The whole grind, hard work mindset is such bullshit. The reason I lifted a lot was not because I was a fucking grinder. No matter how much I convinced myself as a grinder and a hard worker and all of these things, like those are principles, there's pieces there, but it's because I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed the progress. I enjoyed whatever it is that I enjoyed, the winning, the progress, the numbers, whatever it was, I enjoyed it. And it was very enjoyable for me. If I have something I don't enjoy, I'm the laziest fucking person in the world, right? Like I am so lazy, and that's every single person. And if you make weightlifting, if you make movement something that people don't enjoy, they're going to be lazy. They're not going to show up. And that's the only way you don't get results is if they don't show up. If you get them to show up and you're not a total fucking moron, you're not having them balance on a Bosu ball for the entire fucking session, they're going to get bigger, stronger, faster. And when we get to the absolute 1%ers of the 1%ers, and we've worked with a couple athletes, then we need to get maybe a little bit more specific, and we're doing some special things and we're getting into it. But again, that's just a knowledge piece. And I don't know, I like you said, I think a lot of it's just a straw man to survive. And I'm an asshole online. I get that. Like my memes are like, I get it. I deserve a lot of it. I'm not saying I don't, but yeah, that's a piece of it as well. Like they deserve to like come back at me. And I don't really mind that piece. I think a lot of it is fun, but I do think the argument itself is a stupid argument.
When coming up with exercises for play, because I've had a shot at it and I've sort of probably sucked at it, what are some frameworks that you go over your head to make it an easier creative decision in coming up with an exercise for play that's also engaging? So what are some of the stuff that you go through your head?
Take a lot of mushrooms and then go I don't know. The creative process, again, it's the same thing as the comedic process. It's the same way as like Angus talks about how do you get good at social media? Like you have to fucking post and you have to do it. Like Angus, I'm sure you got that a lot. Like, so many times I get this consult talk. I'll come back to the question, but so many times I get this consult question where it's like, what should I do social media wise? How do I get good at this? And you go to their page and they have
They're not posting.
No post, bro. It's like you have to post.
They already sent you like $200, being like, can you fix this problem for me? I'm like, post. You have to post. And there's so many things that I can tell you that you will have to practice, but you have to be posting at Like,
or it doesn't work. It's the same. And that's like, I try to relate it to him. It's like, it's the same exact thing as an athlete talking about not getting stronger. It's like, you haven't showed up to any fucking sessions this week. Like, you can't, you have to show up. You have to show up. So like, I don't know why the fuck I went there.
And they're
with
afraid
that.
of the blowback. They're sitting there with an account where it's like 100 people or 70 followers. It's mostly their fucking cousins. And they're like, but what if I get blowback for my opinion on S&C? I'm like, people are gonna fucking ignore you. Like that's the worst thing is, and that can be tough, but like no one has ever come to me like, I'm worried about being ignored. It's always this idea that they're gonna get hatred. And it's always this projection. It's like, it's because you scroll around talking shit about your mates who put themselves out there. And I've done it too, but you just have to have some self-worth. And I still talk shit about people for putting themselves out there, just not my mates and not myself. Like, you have to be kind to yourself, especially when you're working for yourself and you're trying to run your own business. Like, you can't be the biggest bully in your fucking life. Sorry, I'm taking over this, Austin.
No, dude, that's messy. You have to have this beautiful balance of self-delusion with enough self-hatred to like keep you focused. Like, you can't be totally delusional.
The duality of man.
The duality of man is absolutely needed. Okay, Jacob, we'll get back to your question here. The frameworks to come up with creative exercises, again, I think it's the same. That's how I was talking about the content. To get better at content, you have to do content. To be funnier, to be good at memes, you have to make jokes, you have to do memes, and you're going to crash and it's going to be a failure. To be creative, you have to practice being creative. And that's like it's an active process of doing these things. And I'm a naturally creative person. Like, I understand that. I'm not very analytical in that setting. Like, when I was like 6 years old, I was writing fantasy novels like a fucking nerd, like walking around. I like have a very visual brain. I can see a lot of things like in the brain. It's a weird ass brain. You don't want to be in there. But the creative process there, it's like setting up structures for coaches. Like, a lot of my interns will come in and they're very, very analytical. And I love an analytical athlete because it gives me a balance of like learning from them and getting that analytical intern, learning from their analytical side, but also bringing them into the creative side. And I've seen that it's totally doable to be able to do this. And so some of the things I'll do, I will give them like 3 pieces of equipment. I'll do this on spot, give them 3 pieces of equipment, the interns. I'm like, you have to warm them up with these 3 pieces of equipment, right? So that's just a practice, just a rep of how the fuck do I come up with this? How do I come up with this solution right now on the spot? Getting that brain working. Another thing that I do is like once a week, the warm-up game has to be creative. Like, I have to come up with a new warm-up game that week. So every Wednesday, the first thing we do is a new warm-up game. And the reason I do that is because once I found my warm-up games, I found that I was like pretty stale in what I was doing and I wasn't working my own creative muscle. And we all fall into our own like programming traps. And I realized like if I don't safeguard that programming trap for myself, I kind of just coast. And then like we all kind of coast. So the way to work that creative muscle for myself, I will like make myself come up with a new warm up that day. So that's another way to do it. Another great thing, and I talked about this on one of the YouTube videos, is when like a good writer and a good musician is coming up with a song, and they always talk about like sitting in a room with a bunch of their mates and they like go through the creative writing process where they're riffing with each other, they're coming up with ideas. And like you have 30 athletes to do that with, like every single day. Like use that creative process. Use that. There's so many athletes that see things probably better athletically than you do as a strength coach. They're a better athlete than you. They see the thing that you want to see much better and much deeper than you. Use that resource, riff with them, allow them to come up with some of the warm-ups. A lot of times we'll like put for like accessories, it'll be like a hinge variation, and I'll say it like has to be spicy, and that just means like every rep has to be different or every set has to be different. And there's a lot of trash that comes out of that, but some of the pieces that the athletes come up with are really, really nice. But it also it makes it like this session very organic and alive for that athlete, in the same way like music is when you're in a room with just a bunch of very creative people and you're riffing and coming up with ideas off of each other. But I think the athlete side of things is also very underutilized for especially a bunch of analytical like meathead coaches that could do a lot with just talking to an elite level athlete. And I think a lot of strength coaches, I think this is like one of the biggest sins of a strength coach is you don't talk to elite level athletes, or you don't work with elite level athletes enough. Because when you talk to them, the way they see and feel movement is so different than a typical, like a mediocre level athlete. And just having those conversations, you pick up on so much and like, oh, this is what's actually happening here, or this is what you're actually seeing. And you can learn so much, almost so much more from that than I did in like my 4 years of college learning exercise science and the book stuff. And I'm not saying the foundations are wrong, because you do have to have so many data points. Like The other piece of the creative thing is like you have to have something that centers you and a ton of data points that come in. And Range talks about this, where it's like you have 7 different data points here, and the way to be creative is to connect to those creative like data points.
You can't play jazz if you don't know a bit of the fundamental music rules, because then you don't know. You're not being deliberate in the way that you break them. You're just always
100%.
playing out.
And there's too much chaos. It's too much. Like it's too much out there. It's just nonsense. So it's like you have to have some sort of structure, something that you can draw upon, the notes that you can draw upon, and then connect those notes. And that's your symphony. That's your harmony in your program. And I think coaches, because this is what I've realized too, is like, and this is partially my fault, I think, in like my programming, it's like now you have young strength coaches that know like they don't have enough data points, and they just want, like, they're all over the place with it. And I fall into that trap too, but I'm like, fuck, like I kind of set you up in a wrong track there, because I talk about being creative all the time, but it's also like you need to read super training. You need to go read a bunch of shit.
You've been living your authentic journey out, and there's so many coaches that have had a parallel existence to you that need exactly what you're saying in the here and the now. But then maybe a coach who's 2 years in the game didn't get super training, didn't get bumper fucking two-door bumper periodization. Like that, they need a little bit of that so they can truly understand where you're coming from. Because there's so many people on so many different journeys simultaneously here. I know you're a Joel Smith fan as well from Just Fly Sports, and one of the things I enjoy about both of you is just this embracing of, like, I guess, like, quote unquote softer ideas. This is a very high test male dominated space that we work in, and I feel like a lot of the people, even the women in this field that naturally gravitate towards it, they don't identify as creative. They really struggle to embrace that. And I think it's like, if you want to be sharing your ideas, if you want to be coming up with sick workouts for your clients that are actually enjoyable, you need to face that head on. Like, look yourself in the mirror and be like, do I identify as a creative person? And am I facing that and actively embracing the creative process and pushing that aspect of myself the same way you're in there pushing your fucking back squats, or if you're a little bit more of a sick cunt, maybe trying some dunks, maybe trying to push your max V as well, but just actually embrace it.
Yeah. And there's no other like way around. And it's the same kind of way of like embracing, like, let's say your first time working with a force plate, or your first time even like timing gates. I remember like my first time setting up timing gates as an intern in college, I was super fucking nervous because I didn't know how to do it, right? Like, you're nervous, you have anxiety, you don't like doing things that you're not good at, especially when you're a coach and you're supposed to be in power in that setting. I'm setting up these fucking things for my first time as an intern. I'm like, I really hope I don't fuck this up, or the force plates and making sure I like know how to read the data. All that stuff is anxiety based because you don't know how to do it. Then you learn how to do it, or the same way as like an athlete entering the weight room for the first time, it's just basic as a squat. Like the barbell is a creative thing. That is something that is scary for them. But that's the same thing with strength coaches. Like the force plate was scary at first, then you learned it. Creativity and not having full like formulated workouts where every single thing is under control. Like, that is scary at first, but then you just get to a point in which, oh, I understand how this goes. I know where this is going to take me. I know what stimulus we're getting out of this. But it's the same as learning a force plate. Like you just have to put yourself through that ringer.
I love as well, like, I feel like every S&C coach who follows us has read, and in the industry at large, has read Taleb's Anti-Fragile book. And just in the opening pages, he sort of hammers home, it's like, humans are error-loving systems. And I feel like what you touched on about how, you know, live music is objectively imperfect, but we all know how much the human species is attracted to that. And just when you were sort of talking about when you let your clients pick a hinge variation and every set's got to be different. And again, you're like, a lot of it is shit. But again, it's like, if you embrace this idea and you do buy into this concept, we are an error-loving system, which sounds counterintuitive, but you need to expose yourself to that shit. There's so many good learning outcomes. Just fucking, there wasn't even a question in there, but I know you're.
No, but even like on like a separate branch of that, like Taleb is a great example too of like the whole expert approach. It's like you read his book and you're like, this dude's a fucking genius and like a super, and then you look at his Twitter and you're like, what the fuck, bro? Like, who you are crazy. Like, you have no, what are you talking about in some of these things? And you sound like his emotional intelligence is absolutely zero and is like a bit, but so it's like, I think that's a beautiful piece of like looking at all these experts is we're all fucking idiotic humans on this on this planet, like spinning around too. And even the smartest people in the world, you put them on social media, they look like fucking idiots, and you get to see like just a little bit in their life. And if somebody that smart is doing that stuff on social media, and then people are still, and in the same way, so like branching that together, it's like, how I get the question, like, how do you not look unprofessional making memes? It's like, if you have enough long form content, if you know you're doing good things and like you actually have stuff to back it up, and to see, like, Talib has his books to back him up. At the end of the day, he's going to go down as a fucking genius. Like, in 100 years, people are not going to be talking about his tweet rants that he gets pissed at on Twitter and yelling at people. People are not going to be talking about the memes, anything like that. They're going to be talking about the actual long form, serious content that you made progress off of. And I think a lot of coaches are very, like, you're talking about how they shit talk on Instagram and then they get nervous to post because they're shit talking on Instagram. It's kind of the same thing. They know they don't have anything to back it up with. So it's like, if I post a meme and I don't have long form content or don't have results to back it up, I have a serious like jeopardy of just being like known as the meme. I have no legacy. I have nothing to like stand on. And I think that's a big part of it too. And talking about like the balance of things, it's like you need something to
seen pages grow just posting memes, and then they're complaining. They're like, "Oh, this social media thing, like you can't get clients out of it." Really, it's like you weren't helping anyone. You were just shitting on people. Whereas if you're shitting on people, making them laugh and helping them, that's a winning formula.
Absolute winning formula. Yeah, the whole like I don't get client, like the follower, like where they're talking about like followers aren't a metric of business. It's like, well, depends how you get your followers, you know? It's like if you get your followers not doing anything related to your program, providing no value, anything like that, yeah, nobody's gonna buy your shit. But if you do it in a way of like you're drawing eyes, and Angus, I know you talk about this a lot, but like draw eyes to something that's worth drawing eyes to, then you're going to get clients. Then things are going to happen. Then your business is going to take off. But you really do have to find that balance there. Not only for your business, but also just for your like own mental health. Because otherwise it's just like, you know, deep down, you have nothing. You have not like the angry people, the angry strength coaches on Twitter, like the actual angry people that are like, you see like, oh, you're you're very hateful on this. Like, why? And you look, they have nothing to back like that short form content up with. So it's very like there's a lot of insecurity there. And it's a stressful position to be in. I can understand why they have to defend these small points in this short form content so much. They can't be free on social media because they have nothing to back it up with. And I think that's why YouTube is so helpful for me. That's why podcasts are so helpful for me. Because now I can just hop on Instagram. It's like, I just want to laugh. Dude, like I want to laugh and like get the point across in a very short form way. And if they're actually interested in our product, I have somewhere to send them to. If they're actually interested in the question, I have a 40-minute video covering that question. And that for me, at least, it's a much more peaceful social media experience rather than sitting there in that like very short form game.
I always talk about like the medium's the message. Shout out Marshall McLuhan. And I think a lot of like whenever I hear coaches bitching about the nature of information on apps like Instagram and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, you're kind of just outing yourself as not engaging with long form content. Like, no one has an attention span on this app. It's like, why are you on the fucking app that was purpose built to disseminate 10-second videos, you fucking idiot? Like, there's fully an app that was designed for people to put hour-long videos on. And the people who want hour-long videos are fucking there. They're also at university and you couldn't make it in academia. So you're in the swamp with everyone else on Instagram, whinging about how no one wants to read your B-grade dissertation. Sorry, I'm going off the fucking rails here. What has your experience been like? Because I completely agree that having long form content to back up my shit talk on Instagram has allowed me to use the app for what it is. Because I used to feel obligated to give more nuance when I was being criticized for that. But then I looked in the mirror, I was like, wait, I put out 3 hours of long form content a fucking week. If they're interested in it, it's pretty easy to fucking find. I'm just going to use the app for what it is. Short bites of content, talk shit, get attention. If you want details, go to the detail platform.
Oh, dude, 100. I talk about this too in like a lot of the consulting stuff that I do. And it's trauma dumping on the first date, trying to do long form content on Instagram. And I've been there. Like I was trying to do that. Like I was trauma dumping fucking my entire life, philosophies. Like it's just too much. It's too much for a 10-second clip. It's like, here's my entire program. Here's every philosophy that I believe in. Here's like everything. And they're like, holy fuck, dude, this is a first date. Like, wine and dine me. And that's how I view like the marketing side of it. It's like the first date is Instagram, like asking them out. That's like the Tinder message on Instagram. It's like getting them interested, doing something cool. Like, oh, this guy does cool shit. This guy has a cool training philosophy that I'm interested in. Now we can go on our second date on YouTube, right? And then from YouTube,
that's where you realize you're in love.
That's when you realize you're in love. Like you go on YouTube and you're like, oh, fuck, this guy's cool. I like this guy. And then you date him, and the dating is the buying of the products, right? So like, that's kind of the way that I go about that. But I just think I've been caught in that before 100%, trying to use, like you said, the median the wrong way. And again, the other thing, it's like, you can also still learn a shitload from Instagram.
If you want access to a community of like-minded coaches, head to the notes below and join our free school community. I'm in there every week doing Q&As, and there's plenty of educational content on the way as well.
We can learn more in one day in Instagram on short form content than people have learned in 4 years of school. And I have learned more in one day on Instagram than I have learned in 4 years of school if you're actively pursuing it and you're following good people. So it's like, just because it's entertaining, just because it's short, doesn't mean you can't learn a shitload from it. Like that's also a really, like, we say so many stupid things about the stuff. It's like, we have so much more information. The problem now is not lack of information. It's like how to piece together all that information into something that matters. It's not that we're getting stupider. Like it's not at all. We have more knowledge now than ever before, and anybody has access to all of it. And you can legitimately you can become a much better strength coach through Instagram than you can a 4-year college. I'm not saying do that. I'm not recommending that, but you could absolutely, if you went on the journey, if you're just looking at straight education, straight knowledge, and you were actually taking Instagram serious, like let's say you're taking an Instagram class, you could absolutely learn more from Instagram than you could at a college if you really wanted to.
I just can't believe the amount of coaches who aren't proactive about it. Like, people joke about all the people who are studying exercise science and they're not looking for internships or anything like that, or trying to work in the field until they graduate. But then even in addition to that, I'd say it's not just about being in the trenches before you graduate. It's like, start sharing your opinions early on. This idea that you're not allowed to educate or share your opinion on anything until you stop learning, but then you're never meant to stop learning. So it seems like a good way to just get people to shut the fuck up and never share their fucking opinion. Like, I hate it when people get a bit of Instagram traction and then they're talking down to everyone else, like, no, not everyone can be a social media influencer. Like, no, just because your account's blown up, you shouldn't have an education course or anything like that. Like, that's just for like industry leaders like me to do. Not everyone can be a fucking industry. I'm like, shut the fuck up. The industry self-organizes. Everyone will try to be an industry leader, but the system will fucking self-organize. Dude, we got Naudi as an industry leader as well. It's messy, but it's pretty good.
That's the Boyleism 101. It's like Boyle made it by talking shit. Boyle made it by going against the grain. Boyle was like one of the most hated people when he started because he was talking about not backs. Like, he was doing that. That was his whole fucking thing. Like, exactly. Yeah. And that's like, that is the funny thing. Now he turns around and does exactly what you're talking about. And that's like, that is my biggest, it's not his philosophies in training. It's like, fuck it, dude. You believe what you want to believe. It's the fact that you were the rebel. Now you became the tyrant by overthrowing the old tyrants. And now you just turn around and be like, fuck you, rebel. It's like, it's such a lack of self-awareness.
One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's that fucking...
Dude, it's wild. It's so wild to like some of the statements I see and hear from guys like that. It's like, dude, you literally made it doing this. And you can't make it without doing that. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's
that
just
gear change once you get over 50k followers. Kaz hit the biggest gear change ever. He was like, everyone else is a fucking idiot. It's like, I was actually meant to fucking make up with Kaz. I'm in the process of that. But I noticed him, Mike Boyle's someone who's done it. I've done it a little bit. I've been more recently like, hey, why is everyone so angry? It's like, it's because I'm doing well. I got some of the anger, not all of it. I got some of the anger out of my system. Got it starting.
But dude, and the term, and like, I think there's a little bit of swagger that comes with the following that you can, like, it's a personality thing. It's a swagger thing. Like, it's like, yeah, I do somewhat know what to do here. Like, and I have data points to prove that. Like, but it's also not getting lost. Again, it's the self-delusion with the self-hatred. It's like, at some point, because Jake does a really nice job. Like, I sit in that thing a lot of like trying not to. And then Jake talks to me, he's like, he always, his whole bravado is like, if somebody comments is stupid, he's like, 100 followers, opinion doesn't matter. I'm like fucking dying at that, but it's also kind of true. It's like, if you actually did know enough, eventually you will make it. Like, if that's just the end of the day thing. Like, if you do know as much as you think you know, and you're posting content, you will make it. That's just end of the day. Like, I know there's a lot of
the cabin in the woods and the stack of books that no one else wants to read, like what Jake did. That's exactly what he fucking did, and it's just paying dividends. Because everyone knows no one else is reading that shit, and he'll collate it all on Instagram for you, which is fucking phenomenal.
And that's also the thing. It's like, if you want to, I don't know. I talk about that too. And like, I had this realization. Like, I was scrolling through TikTok one day. I have like a bookshelf like next to my bed, and I was in my bed scrolling through TikTok. I was like, you're a fucking moron, bro. Like, you have the smartest people to ever live on this planet, their words next to you, and you're scrolling through some fucking TikTok that somebody spent 10 seconds on making. But it's like, if you want to become an industry leader, you do have to know something, right? Like, you do have, and the way to become a leader, the way to like think differently is to consume information that other people are not consuming, so you can come to independent thoughts. And like, Jake's coming to independent thoughts because he's literally reading books that probably 100 people on this planet have ever read. Nobody's fucking reading all those books that he's reading, right?
He's reading books on horse tendons that vets haven't read.
Yeah.
Just there's layers, levels.
So like, his data points that he draws from to come up with his own conclusions are like, they have to be different than everybody because nobody has those data points, right? And that's like another big piece of like like, you have to be getting your information in some source that not everybody is. Otherwise, it like, you're literally, that's
Stop
how you
asking
turn
for
into
the
the
book
creatine
list, yeah.
posting.
Because people are like, oh, I'll just read all the books that Austin's read, or I'll read all the books that made Angus. It's like, find your own fucking books. Also, yeah, read your Anti-Fragile, read your fucking what's that James Smith book? Oh, it's the fucking
the gray one, the like
Coaching Dynamics. What is fucking?
Oh god, that one was almost worse than
any James Smith text. Anyway,
yeah,
no, that's Latin. Anyway,
that book was almost harder to read than Super Training. It was like, holy fuck, bro.
Dude, the first couple of chapters though, where it's just all the philosophy before it gets into the data of it, that was fucking ripping and tearing though. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That's like fucking Latin. Kier pointed it out to me the other day. That cunt is writing in his third language and he's more articulate than I am. And I consider myself like pretty decent, right? Like, that guy is a fucking genius. He's a straight up fucking genius.
Bro, I'm terrible. I can barely speak Spanish. I barely speak English, bro. So like, there's no way I'm writing in a different language ever.
Can we talk about Olympic lifts? Because I saw that, I had it written down. I was like, oh, Austin's getting into his Olympic lifting journey. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have seen that guy clean 160 kilos. So you were a weightlifting beast in college. Then you didn't do it for a couple of years. You sort of just flirting with it again. Why is that? Talk to us about it.
All we did in high school was cleans. That we never, and this is like some of the, like, these are some of the stupid thought processes that I like, why I think your words really do matter as a strength coach. Because like, I was told snatches were terrible for your shoulders and they're going to ruin your shoulders. And I was told deadlifting was going to ruin your back. Like, these two things. We're deadlifting every time we clean, and we were fucking cleaning 3 times a week, heavy as fuck. We never went below 90% in high school. Like, it was full send, snort a bunch of Jack 3D before you went up there. I had 2 other meatheads that like none of us could move other than the barbell, and we would just lift as much as humanly possible and like scream at each other the entire time. Our strength coach was a slapper. We get slapped in the face and then go clean. But it's like all these crazy ideas that we were told. And I'm like, now you look at it just from like one step removed, you're like, deadlifts are bad for your back. You can't do them, but you can clean 3 times a week where you are performing a deadlift. Like, what are we talking about? But yeah, so I've never snatched until 6 months ago. That was the first time snatching. So there was a huge like learning curve there, but had a big background.
You hit 100, right? Or was it off blocks? That's still 100 snatches, 100 snatch, however you do it.
Yeah, 225 was my body weight. I don't know what 100 is.
That's 100 kilos.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the milestone.
That's the bar. Yeah, we did that. We got that done. So that was sweet. We almost got a no-foot 225 yesterday, but we fucked it up. We could not finish it.
We value your input here at the High Performance Podcast. Head to the SpeakPipe link in the notes below and you can leave us a voicemail where you can ask us a question or leave us a topic for us to explore on the show. We hope to hear from you soon.
You've really been going down the rabbit hole with variations as well. Like, you've been doing tricks on it.
Oh yeah. I just love it, dude. I just love the like variation. I love like, I have like right now, that again, this is where it's like talking about hard work versus like discipline versus just having a motivation to go lift. Like, I used to clean, like the reason I cleaned, the reason I Olympic lift, the reason I was so obsessed about it, the reason like I put everything I had into it is because I was told if I cleaned 405, I would make the NFL, right? So it wasn't the clean that was keeping me motivated. It wasn't this hard work thing. It was the NFL. I get lit up first day of practice. I realize like my whole world falls apart. I'm like,
completely destroyed your worldview
completely shattered because it was like, it literally told to me, this will lead to that point. And I was like, absolutely the fuck not. What just happened, right? So like, that's why I took off and swore off Olympic lifts for the longest time, because I was promised one thing with them. And I think all of our exercises, like this is why I have such an issue with so many of the arguments we have. Is like, just don't fucking lie about it, dude. Like Olympic lifts are good. There's good stimulus to be done there. There's no reason to take them out of your program, but there's also, you don't need to add them, but like, I was just overpromised what they actually were. And I think a lot of times, and I think we're going to find a generation of athletes where it's going to be the hex bar deadlift, the jumps, the velocity profiling. It's going to be the same thing in 10 years where guys are like, I was told if I got all of these metrics up in this setting where we're not Olympic lifting, I was going to be an NFL player. And I was
just bunch of different. And this is the other end of metrics. Like people talk about the dark side of tomfoolery. Let's talk about the dark side of metrics. Like it is that. It's just proxies of things. It's like there is a thing that you're trying to get good at. And there's one way to measure it, by doing the fucking thing. Yet there's been this trend to be like, well, I can actually measure that thing in 50 different ways. I'm like, nah, you're measuring something else. About look at all these fucking PBs. I'm like, did they PB the thing that they were trying to do? Because you can use metrics to gaslight yourself into the idea that you're making progress. Because again, you're like, oh, all these proxies are going up. I did it to myself. I was like, I'm too fucking subjective. I'm too artsy, qualitative with my fucking tracking my sprint progress. So I started measuring all my 10 meter fly times through my early acceleration all the way up to fucking 60 meters. I'm like, I'm just going to push all these up. Again, max velocity didn't improve. Because again, you can't boil everything down to a data point without losing some of the beauty along the way. Like you can't boil like a rainbow down into a fucking data point.
Dude, the gaslighting is that's the best way to put it with these metrics. And again, this is the thing I think people like misunderstand is like the reason I talk against the metrics is because I was the type A athlete that was absolutely obsessed with them because I would do anything to move a metric I thought mattered on the field. And you know what that led to? Me not spending time on the fucking field doing what I just needed to go do, right? Because I was telling myself, if I get this number up and this number up and this mobility here, and I stretch and then I do this thing, and it was like, and they indirectly kind of correlated, but I wasn't spending time where somebody just needed to sit me down and be like, you need to go fucking learn how to pass rush. That's what you need to go do.
Embrace complexity. Like from a coaching perspective, stop this cause and effect linear thing. You'd be like, oh, if I do this, this will certainly happen. It's like, who the fuck, like what fucking gave you any idea that anything in this field lacked complexity and had a high degree of certainty? Nothing has ever told me that. If anything, all the science and all the objectivity and data that we're measuring, it's telling us the opposite. All of this shit, it's so unpredictable.
Dude,
we cannot right measure there, and we cannot anticipate the interplay of all these fucking variables. Like that's what the objective side taught us. Embrace the fucking uncertainty.
Dude, that is my bit. Oh, dude, that is going to get me on a rant because that is exactly like these people talk how they're sports scientists. They follow the data. They do all this. And it's like the data is not telling us that. I have tracked all of the data. I have this whole chart. Like when I present at like a conference, I have this one slide where it's like, the strongest person on our team, they were the 4th-string defensive lineman. The fastest player on our team was a 3rd-string wide receiver. Like, I have all the fucking metrics here. Like, what the metrics is telling me is these metrics will not transfer to the field directly, right? Like, but if you're following the science, that is what the science tells you. Like that, like you just talked about, like it's so insane. It's right in front of us.
And it's the same pattern. Just these people where they're like, oh, I did the college internship at D3. I'm ready for my D2. Like then someone promised me a D1 gig, and someone's like, I read this research paper. Says if I do this intervention, this is what's going to happen. It's just like, fuck. Doesn't actually work like that. I can't wait to rehab this conversation with you high on mushrooms in the middle of the pit at the Sphere someday. Hopefully next year. This is my vision for it. Like, I feel like this is the fucking
manifesting that up there. That'd be sick.
I want to know. No, Jacob, you've had fucking enough. I get one more question, then we'll go back to you. I want to know. So. You like embracing a lot of novelty. You like to go out of your way to make it fun for your athletes, but then we need to make sure we're getting a consistent enough stimulus to make progress. How do you organize your training if you embrace the term periodization? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, did I get you, Jacob? Yeah, that's a good question, wasn't it?
That is that is the piece where like it can't just be completely chaos. Not only for like your athletes, but for yourself. It's so fucking stressful to not have buckets and things that like like you have to drink some kind of Kool-Aid. You have to like feel like something does matter. If you get nihilistic in training, it gets pretty fucking depressing, like going in and your training program sucks, right? Like, so it's like you have to have some faith in something, right? And so like I have my buckets and I have everything there, and I'm trying to test those buckets, and like we're trying to use the data. Like we're trying all these things. We're using all these things. We're keeping some sort of structure. So like we have like a Monday is our like high contact agility based upper body armor building day. Like Tuesdays are max velo. We're getting some unilateral lifts. Like we have structures like that. And then once you have your pillars, once you have like kind of the Kool-Aid that you have, then you just like play around with it. And I think just people get lost in like they start on the other end. They start with their exercises. They start with their methods, and they don't start with their principles. They don't start with the things that matter. It's like they're looking at the really, really small things and missing the big thing. I'm like, if I have the big things in place, the small things I can place, it's so freeing. I can put the small things on wherever I want based off what the goal of that session is. As long as I keep the goal, and I keep, okay, I want this stimulus done. How I get that stimulus done does not matter. And as long as I'm seeing some sort of data that's telling me once I implement this stimulus, this result is going in somewhat of this direction. Again, it's very messy. We're going up and down and we're waving, but like we kind of have a trend where we're going in the right direction. And the athletes' data points are really, really helpful there. Their playing time is really, really helpful. And then some of the objective measurements that we use as well. But it's like we have structure there. It needs to be there. If it's not there, everything else kind of like it gets very nihilistic. And I think that's a bad way to approach strength conditioning. But again, it's understanding my pillars. I am drinking Kool-Aid when I have my pillars, right? Like, and I cannot get lost in that Kool-Aid, and I get lost in the Kool-Aid more often than I'd like. And the more I look at the more like fucking Excel sheets are the worst thing for me, because I start seeing velo numbers. I'm like, fuck, let's push these velo numbers. Let's go. And I get all these and I'm like, I just focused like 12 weeks on increasing their max velo for what? Like, why was it was just because I saw a number and I wanted to go do it. And it's just like something that type A males like doing. And a lot of strength coaches are type A males. It's a game. It's a video game. It's very easy to play. And I have to make sure that I don't get lost in my own video game.
I really like that idea of, again, you know, we always talk about we need a consistent stimulus. And I feel like people have they think it's like a consistent stimulus is 4x8 with this specific variation of a squat at this specific intensity. It's like, no, a consistent stimulus is like every single Monday, heavy strength session. Every single Tuesday, that's our max velocity. Like just those pillars putting you into, I guess, what I would refer to the good enough space for a consistent stimulus. And like you said, just knowing your order of priorities like that, and knowing the bandwidth of good enough, then you know the freedom that you have to get creative, and you can feel safe in that. Be like, I know between these two variations literally doesn't fucking matter, or the way that it could matter is if it G's up my fucking athlete, or if it creates a bit of an atmosphere in the room.
Dude, the feeling safe and the creativity, I think, is the biggest thing I can get better at, like messaging the man. But like, I don't know how to get better at messaging it, because I fucking say it all the time. I just think people like the straw man, like super easy way to do it. But that is like what I try to like get across. Is like what we're talking about. You are going to be misinterpreted. It doesn't matter how clearly you try to communicate. For the purposes of marketing, other coaches are going to deliberately misconstrue what you're saying. Like it's just, well, and that's the biggest thing with the YouTube content that I've realized is like I've had these guys come into the comment section, like they say ridiculous things, and I'm like, here, dude, like I got a YouTube video on it, and like I'm not watching that. I was like, then why, bro? Like, what was the point of that? Like, you're not actually trying to like have this conversation. Like, and I like a lot of times it'll be like he'll say something, and it was like, I said that in this video. Here it is. I'm not fuck you. It's like, dude, then I can't help you. And it's like that's really why I like try to stay out of like and I'm not great at it, but like. Dude, if I get stuck in those fucking beefs and I get stuck in that stuff, it's just like it's not helpful for my own psyche. Dude,
I've been actively trying to avoid beef for the last 2 months. I know that that's not the public perception. Literally, I've been thinking to myself, I'm doing so well. I fucking just focusing on me, absolutely thriving. Like, yeah, fucking FP and ATG will catch a stray occasionally, but it's all fun and games.
Well, and it's also like trying to find the balance of like when you see bullshit, calling out bullshit. Well, like, you know, like, cause it's also like that is a piece of it. Like there is bullshit out there, and you like, and Stan, Will Rattel like does a really nice job of doing this. And like I've had good conversations with him about this. It's like if something is wrong, you should be able to say it's wrong and be a strong enough person to be able to say it's wrong without getting stuck in the cycle of like always fighting. And that's definitely a balance like I'm trying to work on too. It's like seeing something, being able, but that's where the meme platform is really nice for my own like ability to do that, because then I don't rage, I don't go full competitive mode on there, and I try to stay out of stupid ass comments. But it's like the fucking ATG dude with the curly hair, like when I make the meme about drinking bleach off of him, it's like, oh my god, dude, like Ben Patrick is a saint compared to that man, like an absolute fucking saint compared to that man, like. But it's like you have to call that bullshit out.
Anyone who's listening, because Moochie seems charismatic when you're watching his highly edited reels. He went live on the beach with Keegan Smith for 40 minutes. He was talking as if the person behind the camera had a gun pointed at him. It was. I was like, why are they still doing this? They went for 40 minutes. I was like, this is horrible. I couldn't turn away. Actually, no, I actually had to take 3 breaks from watching it because my you know when your internal cringe just gets too off the charts? Like, yeah, fuck what. Anyway, back to Moochie. What did you have to say about him? He blocked me.
I don't really know where I was going with that one, but just on the long form content, that's another good piece there too, Angus, is like, you see these coaches that
will expose you.
And they master in the short form, and then you go and do you watch the long form, or they don't have any long, and you realize why. Like you realize like the one piece of long form content, they don't have anything behind that idea. They can't like they freeze up. They're like this. That, it's like
one thing I will say, that maybe is the symptom of Instagram learning, when you do just boil down your whole personality to a series of sound bites.
100%. And I get. Part of long form content is learned. Like it is, you do have to like, it is a different skill set for sure. So like some people, but it's also like, I don't know. My measure of respect for a coach is like, once you're saying all this shit and when we're talking, if I go to your long form content and you sound like a retard, like then I don't trust anything you say. Like you're freezing up. You can't say what you want to say, or you have nothing to actually say past a 10-second clip. That's telling me a lot about your personality. And I think again, it's a lot of the super angry coaches out there that are terrible at long form content, and there's a reason for it. Like it's a direct correlation there, and it's because they can't get past the short form content. And the only way to progress the short form content after a while, if you don't have long form content or deeper ideas to continue to dive deep into on the short form content, is you have to rehash and you have to attack. Like that's the only way to do it, because you have nothing else to say because you are a short form person.
Oh, it's fucking fire.
I don't think you have a problem of any of the buying when it comes to the play stuff in your gym. Maybe you have, I don't know. But for someone like me that wants to apply some of this stuff into clients that pay good money to me, how do I create that buy-in and for them to be like, okay, where am I putting my money into, this little bit of this warm up? It's like, I should be doing other stuff. So how do you go about creating that buy-in?
Short little doses. Like I think it's the same as the trauma dump on Instagram. It's like you can't, like you said, like you have to give them some measure. You have to give them something sweet. You have to give them a toy. Like even like our gym, like showing up, like a lot of the stuff that gets the athletes in the gym is not what we focus on. It's showing them we have lasers. It's showing them we have a jump mat. They're like, oh my God, we have a toy. Like this guy's so like, and then we go and you short dose the stuff and they're like, I feel way better. And like, I feel this is awesome. This is good. And they buy themselves into it, right? Like it's not this like, I'm going to have a conversation and convince you on day one, this is the importance of what we're doing. This is why we need to, like, it's never going to work that way. But it's like, you can't splurge on them everything and just like have this be this creative chaos right away. They're going to be like, what the fuck was that? And you can't like be all scientific about it because they don't give a fuck. They just want results. So you come in, you give them short little doses of it, and they start to feel better. They start to talk to you about it and they buy themselves in it. But you can't just force it.
That's really good.
Oh man. This has been fucking fire. What's coming up next for Austin?
Working on a coaching corner. That's the biggest thing. Just trying to figure out like the best way to do the products. I've really enjoyed the consulting like way of doing it. That really gets me fired up because it is for every person that does come to you with like they have no post and they ask silly questions. It's like I was also there at one point and I really enjoy those conversations. And it seems a little bit like deeper, like you're actually affecting and bettering the world in some sense other than just doing PE with kids. Not saying that PE with kids isn't important, but it's like you can change a person's life with like a post and now they have a business and everything going. So trying to find a way to like get that coaching corner rolling, and doing like all of our philosophies training wise, but also a lot of like the social media and business stuff and kind of going through there. But trying to, like, your growth, Angus, in the last like 3 years has been more taking that next step into like the mentorship role, like the coach's role. And it's every single coach's like kind of journey. I get that. I get it's basic, but I understand now why, because I feel like I am talking to one generation below me. I don't have 2 generations below me, but I have 1 generation below me. And I realize like it's different stages. Like the generation I'm talking to here and when I started was different than this one. And I need to like change that message for them and get it out in a different way. And the power of that has been really like powerful, like for myself, of like, I feel like I did something productive today. I felt like I had a great conversation with that person, and trying to like build something along those lines out and continue to grow in that setting.
I totally agree, because there's only so many clients you can take on. Whereas if you start changing the way other coaches coach, like just the trickle down impact of that, I'm just all about that. That's sort of what I get one of the biggest kicks out of. I'm like, how many athletes can I affect? How many people can I affect the training of? Hopefully in a positive way.
Yeah, 100%. And it like I don't know if it's like a people, you were saying it's like, with the athletes, it's like one level of stage, but it's like their athletic development. Whereas the business side, it's like more that life, like that is a sick, like that person got to 10K followers after you had that conversation, and like now they have a legit business. I don't know. And a lot of times it's like the really cool one is the insiders that go into the consulting, that go into the business like realm. I think that's my ultimate favorite, because then it's like the athlete,
they take the customer journey exactly how it was envisioned in your head.
Exactly how you put it out there. Like, fuck yeah.
Like, this is the experience I want someone to have when they find out about my brand, when they take that and they have exactly the experience you want to have. Like, we did it, we manifested it and completed the journey. Like,
they started as some stupid ass meme that you made making fun of ATG, and they got to creating their own business. Like, that is a fucking wild ass journey there. If you just think about how many data points had to go into that, and like how stupid it started versus how it goes. And I love, like, that's why I love like the DMing process with like potential clients, is like where it started to where it is like 4 years later with that same person. And it's like a super official message up here. And then like down here 4 years later, they're hitting a PR and you're calling them soft. And like they start a new bit. Like, I love that part of it, man.
Oh, that's phenomenal. So people who want to follow you, it's obviously Austin Jochum on Instagram. YouTube channel's the same.
Yeah, everything's the same. It's all Austin Jochum.
Podcast Industry Insider, am I talking shit? Is that still going?
Oh, yeah. When we're starting up like season 4 of the podcast, I just call it a season because I took like a 6-month break because I was a lazy piece of shit. But we got season 4 coming up in November that we're starting with. We're getting Tristan, one of my ex-athletes. He's going to come on and help, like Jacob helps here, and get things rolling there. So I'm pretty pumped about that. But yeah, the Insider, which is just our training program, and yeah, everything else is on Austin Jochum.
Sounds sick.
There you go, guys. Follow him. Buy his shit.
If you're sick of going goblin mode on the same 4 accessory exercises at the end of every single session, head to the notes below and grab our free gymnastics program. It'll change the way you think about accessories forever.